Jason was a big surfer, was so since he was little, loved the ocean, loved everything about it. So that was a big, big part of our life. After he passed away, we did a big paddle out and put some of his ashes in the ocean. So we generally go down to the beach and have a moment.
It's been 17 months since Kim Ruin's husband, Jason, died.
It doesn't feel real. He used to go away on trips a lot, so he'd be gone, 3 to 5 weeks, and it just feels like an extended trip. And then every now and then, it kicks in that he's not coming back.
Kim and Jason Ruin met at their local nightclub on the New South Wales Central Coast in 1995. They married 4 years later, and in 2000 Jason enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force. As the couple crisscrossed the country with Jason's work, they had 3 sons.
He never said no to a job, never whinged, never whined. He did what he was supposed to get the job done.
Jason Ruin was a fuel system specialist who was often called on to fix aircraft's fuel tanks, putting him in direct contact with jet fuel. In 2013, he noticed a number of lumps in his neck and went to the RAAF doctor to get them checked.
And he just rang and said that it's lymphoma. So that's when we started to, to talk about what could happen, couldn't happen, and we need to do a bit of research.
Jason started his treatment optimistic that the odds were on his side. But less than a year after being diagnosed, at the age of 43, he was told by his doctors that his illness was terminal.
Once we found out there was nothing more, he was devastated. He didn't want to leave. So it was hard. Yeah. Whether we go civilian or...
Jason Ruin's brother Glenn helped his sister-in-law lodge a claim with DVA following Jason's death.
Yeah, well, Kim, this looks like it's our response from the DVA, and it's a rejection there. It's come from...
The reason they were given for the rejection was that Jason hadn't served in a warlike environment.
I don't think there should be a difference between whether they've served overseas or whether they've just been in Australia.
The Repatriation Medical Authority doesn't accept that a link between benzene exposure and Jason's cancer has been proved. Personnel in these circumstances are compensated if they've served overseas, but not if they haven't. The reason for this inconsistency, it says, is just that it shows particular generosity to people who have served overseas.
If people are exposed to fuel, refuelling aircraft on the ground, for example, in a normal operational sense, I don't think there's any difference. I could not see it.
In fact, there is a growing body of scientific evidence that links cancers like the one that killed Jason Ruin to benzene. Lawyer Greg Isolani is representing a number of defence personnel exposed to fuel, as well as Kim Ruin.
I think it's a potential time bomb, really, for Defence and in particular DVA, who have to administer the compensation scheme.
Jason Ruin's is not an isolated case.
It's an ordeal, no question, painful, discomfort, all those sort of things.
The corridors of the Royal Adelaide Hospital's oncology ward are all too familiar to Peter Cutting and his wife Julie.
Yeah, so what date do you want the next one?
The former RAAF logistics expert and his wife were both diagnosed with myeloma, a blood cancer, within 10 years of each other. Today, Peter is having an infusion of a drug to treat bone damage caused by his cancer.
It's an incurable cancer, and I was given 3 to 4 years to live, so you got that on the... It's really good to get told that, of course.
1, 2, 3, here we go.
During his 20-year career in the RAAF, Cutting was exposed to jet fuel and other toxic solvents. His claim for compensation was also rejected by DVA, meaning he didn't qualify for a gold card, which would have covered all his medical care.
They acknowledge that you got the bloody cancer and all of that. They acknowledge that petrochemicals cause it, but not to the degree sufficient that they'll give you a gold card. And to me that seems stupid.
Peter Cutting says Defence's compensation scheme is unfair, but what causes the couple the most distress is the possibility that Julie's myeloma was caused by Peter bringing contaminated clothes home with him from work.
He'd come home from work saturated in liquid, and I'd scrub his collars of his clothes and in the washing machine, and then that's how we think that I got it.
Is it difficult to, I suppose, contemplate that it's possible that your job also led to Julie getting sick?
Yeah.
Lawyer Greg Isolani says that the Department of Veterans Affairs has the discretion to accept claims, even when the claim falls outside the rigid guidelines.
Irrespective of how the RMA has framed the statements of principles, then DVA should give the benefit to the widow and children for a man who devoted his life and undertook the type of service he did for compensation to be paid.
In June, when we first spoke to Defence about the harm caused by exposure to jet fuel, it said fuel handling procedures had improved and that personnel were no longer unsafely exposed. However, 730 has now obtained this report, prepared for Defence less than 2 years ago, which says that serious deficiencies are continuing in fuel handling at Defence sites. The report made 16 recommendations, including better training and regular certification of personnel. When we asked Defence, it said it had implemented 4 of the 16 recommendations, and it takes the safety of its workers very seriously. Today, it emerged that the Repatriation Medical Authority is considering lowering the threshold for safe benzene exposure for a number of blood cancers, but again, only for those who have served overseas. Kim Ruin is now exploring other possibilities for compensation for Jason's death. She hopes that other families don't have to go through the same experience.
Jason asked me to continue on with his DVA claim. He was never selfish, so he wasn't asking for something for him. He was asking so that it wouldn't affect other people's lives and that they didn't have to go through all the stuff that he's had to go through.